Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. Let's go ahead and get into some recent books that I've read. Okay, so this video is just basically a recent reads video. I'm just going to be talking about the last 4 books that I've read because I have a few minutes to film and I really want to talk about these with you guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. I am talking about 4 books. 3 are romance, 2 contemporary, 1 historical, and then I read a mystery thriller. So let's go in order. The first book that I want to talk about is The Brightest Light of Sunshine by Lisina Coney. So I really didn't have any idea what that book was about when I first grabbed it. I had seen the cover going around online. I was book shopping one day, and I will always admit there's a huge part of me that is always drawn to like a thicker, shorter type of book. Like, I just love them when I'm at the store, and so I saw this one was a little thicker. It's so dumb, right? But I just love like that tactile experience of, that's something that will sell me on a book. I'd seen it going around, I'd heard it was an emotional romance, and I was like, now is the time, I'm going to get into it. So I didn't really know anything about the plot. So I was really surprised when I first started this to see that it is a little bit of an age gap. She's 22, he's 30, it's a new adult romance, and that's typically not my bag. Like, I don't usually like new adult age. I feel a little old for it, you know? Not even that I feel old, because I still read YA. I often feel like sometimes new adult can just not work for me. That's what I'm going to say right now. So let's get into this. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. And honestly, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought that I would, because from the moment that I started this book, it definitely had some amateurish writing mistakes that really was causing me to kind of check out a little bit of the story and get really invested with the characters. And most of what I found with the sort of, I hate to say amateurish writing, but it's just not polished. It's not a polished writing style, is the way that she describes the hero and heroine when they're looking at one another, when they're thinking about one another. And a lot of the times what she will do is she will default to describing the eyes, which is very common, specifically with authors who are not super experienced, because we so often emote and receive emotions through somebody's eyes, and that's such a huge focus in romance, is how is this person feeling, how are they perceiving me, you know, like the very stereotypical his eyes darken, his eyes flared. Like, it's so common, specifically in romance, to have a tendency to over-describe the eyes. Physical appearances in general tend to be over-described, but I think that specifically eyes, it's the go-to. And that's something that this author did throughout the whole book, is anytime that she was going to try and relay an emotion to you about what the hero was thinking, about what the heroine was thinking, she typically did that through a description of the eyes. And that's not always a bad thing. Like, I think that eyes obviously convey a lot of emotion, and that's how we see people and interact with people, right? It's a very true thing. But when it tends to be overdone, she does use repetitive phrases. She calls them orbs a lot, dark orbs, you know, like she uses repetitive phrases over and over and over again. And it just gets a little wearing, it's a little tiring, and it doesn't do what I feel like she's thinking it's doing, as in it's getting you into this emotional scene, when really it just is a red flag for me of this is a weak writing skill. You haven't really worked to develop how to convey how the characters are feeling about one another, and so you default to the eyes because that's typically what we respond to, right? So that is honestly almost entirely why I gave this book 3 stars, is because the writing quality was pretty poor. It needs more polish, it needs more finish work, it needs more editing, it needs to be more succinct and tight to really create an emotional impact. And I say that because I feel like this book had a lot of emotional impact. Like, I really enjoyed the story overall. I love that our hero, he's 30 years old, he's big, huge, muscular, tattooed, a bit of a gentle giant. He is very gentle. He has a very strong relationship with his little sister, who his mom is kind of a deadbeat, and he sort of feels like there will probably come a time when he's going to have to take over the care for his little sister, so he's very involved and very loving of his little sister. And the heroine, for her part, is, you know, she's 22, she's been living on her own for a while, she is the adopted daughter of 2 gay dads, she grew up in a very loving home, they cared for her a lot, and I really enjoyed seeing that aspect. She has some pretty serious trauma in her past where she was sexually assaulted, And she is really, a big part of this book is her trying to overcome that and how that affects her life and how that affects her desire to have a relationship and her desire to even be with anybody. And I feel like this book from the very beginning was giving me very strong vibes of Easy by Tamara Weber, which was a favorite of mine when it released way back. I think it was like 2012. It was one of the first indie romances when indie romance was starting to boom, and I adored that book. I just recently read that last year, I think, or maybe this year, and I was so happy to see that it held up for me. I love that book. I think it's a beautiful new adult romance. I love, love, love how the trauma is handled and dealt with and the way their romance grows and develops and they help one another through that. I just love that book. So I think that this book was giving me those vibes of Easy and that entire generation of new adult romances that just feels like falling in love for the first time. Like the best part of new adult romance, I feel like this book had that, and I really, really loved that. So I loved their emotional connection. I love the romance between the two of them. They actually end up meeting because the heroine is trying to move on from her trauma, her sexual assault, and she wants to get a tattoo, and she's trying to work up the courage, so she ends up at the hero's, his name is Cal, his tattoo parlor that he owns. He's a tattoo artist. I think he owns it. I can't remember. And he sees her there, and she kind of chickens out at the last second and ends up going away without the tattoo. And then they end up meeting again later on at a party at his friend's house, who actually ends up being her cousin. And then they also end up meeting because she is a ballet teacher, she's a dancer, and she's teaching his little sister. And it's great. Like, honestly, I really loved the way that this romance was built and developed. It's a very much a slice of life. We just kind of get to see small moments of their life as they're just living, right? There's nothing overly dramatic in here. There's nothing that is like over the top. And I love that because I think that this author really did do a good job of capturing that feeling of falling in love in an everyday life with some trauma that you're trying to work through. Like, I just adored that. I thought they had a really good emotional connection. I love the way the romance was slow to build and develop, and it made sense, especially considering, you know, her past trauma. I really liked that. So again, like, I feel like if the writing in this had not constantly been jarring for me, I would have really loved this. It could have potentially been a 5-star read. I will say, however, like, once you get to about 60-ish, 70% of the book, when they finally get together, the whole drive I had to read this kind of fell off the cliff, because then that whole journey of, are they going to get together? How are they going to do this? They're just kind of existing together happily, and then there's some outside drama that is potentially going to keep them apart for the rest of the book. And I just don't particularly like that. That's not my preference. I feel like it takes the emphasis off of the romance and puts it on something outside that is potentially going to pull them apart. And I don't know, I always feel like I'm much more interested in the journey of falling in love and also like working through issues to be together, especially if I feel like the couple is kind of meant to be together. So I feel like 3 stars is a very fair rating for this because, again, I know I talk about writing a lot on here, but the writing was not great. And if it weren't for the strong vibes of big, huge, protective, muscular, tattooed guy who is very protective, like he's very protective of this ballerina who has some trauma, like, I'm just always a sucker for that. I love that dynamic so much, and I do think it was done well here. Like, I liked the build-up, the moments they had together. It was great. I just wish that she had, and that I wish that her writing had been a little more polished, and that actually gives me a lot of hope, because I feel like a lot of times with authors where the writing is not great, they don't do the build-up and the development of the relationship well. So the fact that I thought that it worked well for me here, the way they were getting together, I have a lot of faith to continue on in this series. One thing I will say is that once I read this book and went to go mark it as read on Goodreads, I took a look at some of the other reviews that were going around, and I was honestly really surprised by some of the comments on this book. Okay, so he's 30, she's 22, she's been out and on her own for quite a while, she's very independent, she's living her own life, she's not a fresh out of high school girl by any means, like, she is a young adult, a new adult age, right? She's learning how to be an adult on her own, and she has that form of independence. So she never felt young to me at all, she never felt immature, she felt very much like a character of her age who is going through things in her life and trying to figure out how to be a grown-up, you know, while never feeling immature or young. So one of the critiques that I saw by like the first review of this on Goodreads, the most popular, is this age gap is giving me the ick, and why is a 30-year-old hanging out at college frat parties? And like, I'm gonna rant a little bit about this because I'm like, honestly, 30 and 22, I feel like that's not much of an age gap at all. Like, I don't feel like that is much of an age gap. I feel like if she was 18 and he was 38 or 40, then okay, that's a huge life difference. 22 and 30, are we serious? Are we being serious that that is icky? Like, I just, as someone who does not like big age gaps, specifically with a young heroine and an older man, I just had to kind of roll my eyes at that because I'm like, to me, that's saying I didn't read this with a critical eye. I just kind of zoomed in there. It wasn't grabbing me, and so I picked on something that I thought I could pick on to review about it. Because, be for real, the age gap, there's nothing icky or taboo about it, right? Also, he doesn't just go and hang out at frat parties. He goes to a specific one where at his friend's house to talk to his friend. Like, it made me feel like, you know, I don't want to be, act like, it's going to sound like this regardless of what I say, but I'm like, did you actually read the book? Did you actually read it? Because your critique is not telling me that you did. So I found that a little humorous. We are going to actually talk about an age gap that is that exact, like, 18 and 38. But that's not this one, right? Like, I don't know, y'all. I thought that was a little bit funny. So, okay, moving right along to the next book that I read was Chance at Love by Beverly Jenkins. So, Beverly Jenkins, I read this for the Rake Appreciation Society. This is a historical romance book club that I do with my dear friend Jen from the Book Refuge. We do a quarterly book club where we read 2 books and then we talk about them in a live show. Our next one will be in November. And I'm very excited about the books that we have picked for that. It's on our Instagram if you want to go check it out. I think it's specifically on Jen's Instagram. I'll be posting about it too because I haven't done that yet. But yeah, we had our live show last Wednesday, and I love Beverly Jenkins. I've read a lot of her books. She is honestly such a comfort author for me. I just love her way of storytelling. I love the way that she examines small moments in a life and big moments. I think that she does such a good job of capturing emotion and romance and family. Like, I just love her books, right? I do have to say this is one of the least favorite of hers that I've read, however. I gave it 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4 stars on Goodreads, because there's just still so much to like about this book. But if I'm talking about the romance in here really didn't work for me at all. So this book begins with our heroine, who is like a very strong, independent woman. She's traveling to California. She's going, you know, she is like a gambler and things like that. And she ends up running across these 2 children who are kind of orphaned, and they are looking for a mother. They need to find a mother. They see a bunch of mail-order brides come into town, and the heroine is not one of them, and they're like, hey, maybe you could be our new mom. And then comes in who is going to be their new, like, adopted father, like he's taking them in under his wing. And our heroine is like, well, he's a very handsome and attractive man, and she has this connection with the 2 girls, which is honestly one of the best parts of this book. It's probably, honestly, like 1 or 2. Like, I have love for the heroine, a very strong heroine, like, love her so much. One of my favorite Bev heroines I've ever read. Just, like, so incredibly strong, but also very nurturing and mothering and not a pushover at all, but, like, the type of woman that I love Beverly Jenkins writes about. Just strong, solid, is gonna take care of things no matter what comes her way. Like, I love this heroine. I can't say enough how much I love her. The other thing that was just fabulous is her relationship with these 2 girls. Like, there are parts of this that are funny, there are parts of this that are cute. Like, it's just a great found family type of dynamic, right? So she agrees to kind of go along and help take care of the girls because she is attracted to this hero, and she also feels like this might be an opportunity. I really have a connection with these girls. We'll just go and do it, right? And so then just small town life ensues from there. And I did really enjoy, like I said, like her dynamic with the girls. I loved seeing her bloom and blossom and develop. We have a hero who is extremely inexperienced in the bedroom, and she is the one to kind of like teach him and help him through that. And I also like thought that was added a lot of great dimension to this. Like, I really loved her as a heroine. The hero, not so much. Like, he was just very much a stand-in placeholder. And usually Bev's heroes are some of the swooniest, most take charge, most romantic heroes. Like, I love the way she writes men. This one was a miss for me. I really didn't care for this guy at all. He was just like dishwater. Like nothing about him other than his desire to take care of these kids was great. So we had a great discussion about this book on Jen's channel, the live show. We did also talk about one other book that I picked. So this was Jen's pick. So if you want to hear a good discussion about this historical romance, go check it out on Jen's channel. But yeah, this one was pretty disappointing to me. Beautiful cover, great heroine, great relationship dynamic with these two adopted, potentially daughters. But man, also the ending on this was not great. I didn't really like. I mean, it ends in a happily ever after, but the lead up to there was just sort of so disappointing. So I feel like I'm being generous to give it 4 stars, but I also feel like there's so much to love about Miss Bev's books anyway. So, okay, so now the next book that I read is one of my favorite. It's going to be one of my favorite books of the year, y'all. I can't say enough good things about it, and it is The Lovely Return by Carian. First of all, look at this beautiful cover. Can you even handle it? I don't know about you, but I just adore this cover. I think it's so beautiful. What a great couple. What a great photo. I love her cover so much. So as soon as I was like 50% of the way through and I was like, man, I think I'm going to really love this book, I went and immediately bought it because I just had to have it. So this is Carian Cole's. I did listen to the audio of this. Thank you so much, Libro FM. I was granted an influencer copy of this so I could listen to it. I really enjoyed the audio. The performance is fantastic by these two. Actually, I think there are 3 narrators. They did a really great job. So this is basically a reincarnation romance, which I will confess I haven't read hardly any of those, so I don't really have like a preference. I just am firmly of the opinion that if it's a well-told story, I will enjoy it, and I trust Carian Cole. She has written some of my favorite books, so I was very nervous about this, but also very excited, and I ended up loving this. Like, it's not a perfect book. There is something kind of substantial that keeps it from being a 6-star read for me, but I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. This feels so similar to the feeling, not in story, but the feeling that I got when I read Torn by Carian Cole, which is one of my favorite books of all time. This book feels like it's giving me those same feelings in a lot of ways. So this is, again, another big age gap romance. And the reincarnation element of it, I was very intrigued to see, like, how is she going to pull this off? Is this actually going to work? And I don't know that it was entirely successful. There is one thing in the end about how the reincarnation element is kind of resolved that I felt like was weak plotting, and that's why it's not a 6-star read. But the love I have for the way this romance developed made it, like, it has to be a 6-star read, okay? So this book begins with our hero and heroine. They are young, they are married, they are like 20 years old, they are married, they are soulmates, they have this house, this small house they live in. She is heavily pregnant, they have this dog that they both got together that they really love and adore. And our story begins on the night when she's going into labor and they need to get her to the hospital. And so the husband, our hero Alex, he is the one driving, and it's a snowy night, of course, and something happens, and there's a car accident. It's a very, very massive car accident, and our heroine, his dearly beloved wife, is killed. She is still pregnant, and it's a tragedy, right? Alex, for his part, is injured severely. He loses an eye, so he ends up wearing an eye patch through the rest of the book. He's an artist. He makes sculptures through, like, found objects and trash and things like that. And so for the next several years, he is just in a deep sense of grief of losing his wife and his baby and feeling like it was his fault because he's the one who was driving. And he just cannot really work past that. So he kind of throws himself into work, throws himself into taking care of this dog, and he just exists. He doesn't thrive or anything like that. Now, just down the street from Alex lives a couple who have a little girl. And when this little girl, Penny, is 3 years old, she starts drawing these pictures of a home that is not her own and a family that is not her own. There's a man with long hair. There's a woman with a certain color hair. There's a baby. There's a dog with, like, a lion's mane. It's a chow chow. And there's a very specific house. And so this young child has all of these memories of a past life without realizing they are a past life. And so her mom is just kind of like, what are you doing drawing all of these? And Penny, the little girl, she's like, I'm drawing my home. And the mom is like, no, this is your home. And Penny's like, this is not my home. I'm just living here with you. So that's when we start to see that reincarnation is here, because obviously Penny is the reincarnated soul of Alex's wife, right? So a little bit of time passes, and Penny ends up wandering away, and she comes across the house that she has memories of. She sees the dog that she has memories of. She sees this man that she has memories of. Now, I want to be super clear. There is nothing ever in this book that feels sexual or gross or icky about his feelings for her and her feelings for him. Like, she sees him as family, as home. She doesn't see him as a father figure. She doesn't see him as a husband figure. She's just like, this is a home where I belong. And Alex, for his part, just sees her as a little girl, a neighbor. She ends up feeling so connected with him, and he is such a kind-hearted man that he kind of watches over her until her mom can find her and he can find out who this kid belongs to. The mom is going through it on her own, and she's like, hey, could you maybe babysit her sometime? So that begins their way of getting to know one another and a relationship of sorts, right? So years pass, and Penny, the little girl, she grows to be about 12 years old, right? So she is, sorry, I had to go change the battery in this, and now I feel like it looks so different. I wasn't going to say anything, and then I'm like, oh, it looks different. So Penny grows up, she's about 12 years old. She feels a lot of a strong, almost ownership with Alex, as in, like, he is my family, he is my real family, and the family she has, like her dad, her actual birth father, her father, like Alex is not a father figure, like I have to say. He is not really involved. Her mom works a lot, and so she does end up just at Alex's house a lot, you know? So there comes a point when she's about 12 years old when Alex's friends see her there, and they pick up on something that Alex kind of missed. They're like, they kind of tell him privately, I think that she feels things for you that maybe people might think is weird or inappropriate. Like, maybe you should not be alone with her. Like, this could be bad for you. And Alex is, like, oblivious to that. And he's like, oh, you really think so? So then I won't. And so he ends up saying, hey, Penny, you can't come over. We can't really be friends anymore. I'm worried about, you know, what people are going to think and stuff like that. And so they kind of end up separating. It's very traumatic for Penny because she feels like, you know, that's her home, her person. Years pass again. She ends up being like 17 years old and finds a friend at school who then eventually leads her back to this house, and she gets all of those memories of Alex and her time there as a kid, and she starts to have flashbacks of feelings and moments of the life that she led there, but she doesn't recognize that it's like a past life type of memory, you know? She's just having like flashes of, I know this dog, I know this man, I know this home. And it starts to be a little confusing to her, to where she's kind of starting to doubt her mental stability, right? So I won't really go into any more plot details about this, but that's basically the setup for here. And when she is 18 years old, when she's graduated from high school, that is finally when we start to see an awareness of her, of romantic feelings for Alex. You know, she may have had like a childhood crush, but she's never really entertained them until she's 18, and she starts to realize she has this moment of awakening of desire and feelings of emotional romantic connection with him, and he starts to have those as well. And he's very, very conflicted about that for a lot of reasons, as you would expect, right? Like, he's 20 years older than her, around that he's known her since she was a child, but he can't deny this connection that he feels with her. And mind you, he's still oblivious to the fact that she is the reincarnated version of his wife. Like, they both are. It's not really something that's known. It's just something that kind of continuously draws her back there, right? So eventually they do end up in a relationship. A lot of plot things happen, a lot of things that cause angst and tension, a lot of things that pull them apart and bring them back together again. And we get a happily ever after in the end. And I will say that I was honestly, there were parts of this book that I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how I feel about this relationship that is such a huge age gap. And there were some moments in the beginning when, around the time when his friends told him, like, hey, this may be inappropriate on her, like, she's got a crush on you, this could get weird for you, this could get bad for you, you know? I feel like I was also sort of feeling like, okay, maybe because she's like 12 and starting to get a little older, and, you know, like, maybe this is kind of feeling a little weird. But I will also say that I think that this is one of the most beautifully built romances in a contemporary romance that I have read in a really long time. And I feel like it's really impossible, without spoiling a ton of this, to really describe the complexity of and the layers that this relationship has. And if that is one critique that I have of contemporary romance, it's that. It's lacking complexity. It's lacking layers. It's lacking a lot of emotional weight and heft and just things that are complicated, right? I feel like for the most part, a lot of contemporary romances that I've read in the last few years are too easily resolved. They don't really go deep and make things in a way that feels like this is complicated, this is complex. Like, her feelings for him are complex, his feelings for her are complex. There are other people that make it complex. There are situations that make it complex, difficult, impossible for them to be together. That's the kind of crap that I want in my contemporary romances. Like, I don't know why this is so lacking in contemporary romances. I feel like it is largely because there's a reliance or a desire on steam to drive the story. And I think that this one worked so well for me because there really isn't any type of sexual attraction until way into the book. A lot of it is just building up the story, building up the connection, building up the layers of what is going to be a very complicated relationship that these two feel like they are soulmates and they have to be together, but how in the world do they possibly be together? You know, like, this is my crack in that way. Like, I just love romances like that, and I have not found many of them. So this book was so hauntingly beautiful in so many ways, because not only do you have this complex dynamic, right? You have a man, you have a hero who is such a good man, and he has been grieving and mourning the loss of his soulmate for 20 years. Like, he did not date or move on from that moment. And I think that's a combination of the fact of his grief and the loss of the love of his life. And he felt guilty about that, right? Because he was the one driving. And all of that adds so much nuance to him as a character and what he brings to this relationship, right? It's just so, I feel like it's just so phenomenally well done, right? So the one critique I have of it is how the reincarnation element is, I guess, revealed and resolved in the end. I didn't love that, but I can't talk about that without spoiling it. So I feel like it was a little bit plot holy, right? However, I will say, I didn't go into this wanting a super tight plot. It did make me feel disappointed, because I feel like if you're going to use reincarnation as a plot element, it should be really strong. But I also feel like without that reincarnation element plot device, the relationship that I loved, the complexity, the nuance, the difficulty, that wouldn't exist. So I'm conflicted, because it's one thing to say maybe she shouldn't have done the reincarnation plot because I didn't really like how it was revealed or resolved or whatever, but at the same time, that's such a crucial, vital element of what I loved about this romance that is unforgettable and would not be possible without it. This man, like, there were parts of this book that had me, like, in tears because of how much he loved his wife and how conflicted he was about his growing love for this new person who felt like a piece of his soul, but he doesn't recognize that, and it's just so beautiful. So this is a very long book. It's like almost 600 pages, but I was just eating it up. I loved it. I wasn't bored. I found it very compelling. I just adored it. This is what I feel like is one of the best books I've read from Carian, with the exception of Torn and Tide. I just adored it. I really, really loved it. I thought it was beautifully well done. I thought it was a great story. Truly a soulmate romance. Like, if you are looking for a soulmate romance, I think you're going to find it here. And it gave me everything that I wanted in that way. So I loved it. I loved it so freaking much. So, all right, let's talk about the last book that I read. Last book that I want to talk about is Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. So this is a thriller mystery. And I was really surprised about this book. So I had read Gone Girl, but it's been a really, 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 really long time. Like, I feel like it's probably been, I don't even know when Gone Girl came out, but it was probably somewhere around then, right? And I really didn't remember what her writing style was like. Okay, this book came out in 2012, because I was like, I think it's probably been like 15 years since I've read Gone Girl, which is not quite there, but close to it. So Dark Places is a mystery thriller about a girl who is an adult now, and she is the only survivor of the massacre that killed her family. Her whole family, except for her brother, were killed, murdered in brutal ways. It's believed that her brother did it. He is sent to prison, and that's where he is to this day. Now, fast forward to our main character, Libby. She is an adult. She is out of money. She has some serious trauma from obviously witnessing these murders, and she is really struggling. She had like a grant and some money coming to her, and now finally that she is an adult, the money has stopped, and so she's trying to find a way to survive when she's approached by this like true crime group, and they are going to pay her for like memorabilia and insider information, and they are firmly in the camp that her brother Ben did not commit these murders, whereas Libby testified that he did. Like, she is firm in her belief that he did do these. So the whole book is her kind of trying to piece together this mystery and having little bits of it revealed at a time where she starts to doubt, maybe he wasn't the one who killed my family, maybe it was somebody else. And then her association with the true crime group kind of leads her on this path to unravel answers and uncover things that she shouldn't have found out and that puts her in danger, right? So Libby is working with the true crime group. They're paying her, getting her just enough to survive, and she's trying to figure out what actually happened to her family. And I honestly have to say that I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I was deeply, deeply, deeply impressed with the writing. The writing in this is superb. Like, some of the most evocative writing to really make you feel who these characters are. And a lot of this book, like, this book is dark, dark, dark. Very, very dark. When you find out what was going on at the time when her family was killed and some of the things that led up to it, like, this is really a dark book and it's very uncomfortable to read. The mystery element of it was fantastic. Like, I feel like this author knows exactly how to push you just enough to feel like you are getting some answers and then to pull it back so that you're still, like, so intrigued with what's happening, who did it. Like, she balanced the mystery elements of this so perfectly. I really, really loved that. Again, like, talking about the writing was just phenomenal. It gives you such a strong feeling of who these characters are, and none of them are good people. They are all very dark. It shows you every single dark and disturbed thought that they have, like something that I think most of us would say, well, that's an intrusive thought, you know? But it all leads to feeling like doubt about this character. Like, could this person have done this? Could they have killed this family? And she does such a good job of getting you into the darkest parts of these characters' minds, which is not a comfy place to be quite honest, right? And her writing is so powerful. You know, when I was talking about The Brightest Light of Sunshine earlier and how I felt like her descriptions just were not it, right? It was overly wordy, overly flowery, like really repetitive. The descriptions in here are haunting and evocative, and the words that she uses are so jarring and unsettling to create that exact feeling in you, right? This is an uncomfortable book to read, but it's a book that you just cannot put down. It was gripping, it was thrilling, it was such a haunting look at true crime, like documentaries and culture, and why that is such a fascinating part of our society. I feel like she is doing a really good job of laying that subtext in here and getting people to feel like, why are we so compelled and view this as entertainment? This is someone's life. And I personally have always had a bit of an issue in that way with true crime. Like, I feel like that is something that is kind of talked about, but I feel like it's just not ethical, really, to consume this content of someone's tragedy as if it's entertainment. Like, that's Hunger Games level stuff, right? So I found that to be really interesting. Like, I think that in the genre of thrillers, which can often just be like fast-paced, grabby, catchy, like, this book does something more. She's talking about things. She's making you feel these people's pain while also making you feel like they're unlikable. Like, we don't like them. It was fabulous. Like, the writing also sometimes feels very literary, like just beautiful, beautiful, but beautiful in the way that it does what it set out to do. It is beautiful writing with a purpose. It is never just beautiful to be beautiful. Like, everything in here is created to make you feel a certain way about these people and create doubts in your minds or take you down a certain path. Like, this is masterful writing. So, so good. So I will say I was disappointed with certain aspects of this story. I don't want to say too much without giving spoilers, and that's why it's a 4-star and not a 5, because the craft of this is exceptional. It's the type of writing craft where you are reading it and you're swept away, and then every so often you will like catch something that she says, and I feel like if you are a fan of like writing as a craft, you'll be like wowed at how she has put words together and what she's doing with them, right? Because again, like I've said a million times before, beautiful writing is not the end goal. It's beautiful writing with a purpose. Like, what is this showing us about these characters? What is this showing us about this story? What is this revealing about what's going on here? That's the whole point. And it's such a rare thing to find an author who combines beautiful writing, prose, and craft. And I think beautiful is a stretch. Like, there are uncomfortable, jarring feelings in this, juxtapositions of words that are intentionally done. But it is a stunning use of craft that contributes heavily to the story and the characters. So I found this very gripping, unputdownable, and I enjoyed it a lot, except for some things with the plot that I found to be disappointing. So there you have it. Those are the 4 books that I have read. Thank you so much for being here, for being a subscriber, for my patrons, for their love and support, and enabling me to continue to make these videos. And yeah, I just want to say a great big thank you for being here and watching this. And if you have made it this far, please feel free to leave me a black heart, and I will see y'all in my next video.